Today, I would like to speak to you about education, and as the title suggests, why education matters. Now, you may well indeed be rolling your eyes and thinking, oh my God, do I really need to sit and listen to this? But there is a message to be taken away from this, and so I hope that by the end of this relatively short video that you can go away and think a little bit about why education is important, and how it is going to be a tool for you, not just in the here and the now, but indeed also for you in the future. All right? So really there are two main points that I wanted to get across to you, and I'm going to try and do that as briefly as possible. The first is that education is your gateway to a better future. Now, that's not to imply that where you might well be right now isn't necessarily good enough, not at all. But we all have plans, we all have desires and aims and things that we wish to achieve in the future. So really, it stands to reason that the more tools you have with which to try and achieve those things, the more successful you're likely to be at achieving them. And it is a good education which will indeed provide you with those tools. So that's the first thing. Education is your gateway to a better future, and is indeed for everybody. Okay? The second thing is that a good education will enable you to be, in the future, but also indeed right now, a net contributor to society. Now, you may well be sitting there and thinking, what's he talking about? What is a net contributor? Now, some of you might know, some of you may not. So, just to be clear, a net contributor, essentially, in a nutshell, is somebody that gives more to society than they take from it. Think of it a bit like a glass with water in it. There are multiple people drinking from that glass, the water within it, and some of them will drink from it and then top it up, and they will top up at least the same amount and preferably a bit more than what they drank from it, assuming there's space in the glass for that to happen, okay? Which means that they've had something from it, but they've then topped it back up again. And preferably a little bit more, so that there is more for them people to come and also drink from it later. A net drainer, by comparison, is someone who would drink from that glass and then not top it back up. So they have taken something from it, but they've not given anything back, you see? And so for those people that come later, they have to then fill it up, or there might not indeed be any water at all for the people that come next, all right? So it's very important to be a net contributor in society. And there are multiple ways that you could do this, many ways, and there's not really much point in necessarily going into those right now, but a good education will enable you to be a net contributor. Why, you might ask? Well, education, as I said previously, is about being given the skills and tools with which to live your life, and to live it in a way that is the best it can be in your particular circumstance. And people's definition of best is going to differ, because our opinions all differ about everything, which is interesting in itself. So, people often think about education being an academic thing. Well, indeed it can be. Maths, English, science, geography, history, foreign languages, for example, all very, very important things there. They all provide you with skills that you can apply to maybe an apprenticeship once you leave school, or indeed if you choose to go on to university to study for a degree. So they're the skills. And then indeed there are tools which are similar. You know, these are things which you perhaps might develop as a result of having those skills. So, for example, your ability to interact with others and to be able to interact with others effectively. Okay? Now, education doesn't have to be sat in a classroom. It might be, and often is, but it doesn't have to be. Or indeed, given recent events, sat on a Teams, Zoom, or Skype call, for example. It doesn't have to necessarily be that. It doesn't have to necessarily be someone stood at the front of a class dictating information to you, the pupil. Education can be that, which is tremendous, and it needs to be, of course. We all need a schooling. But it can also be that and more. So it could, for example, include sitting and talking with your friends on a relatively regular basis about everything and nothing. How you are, how they are, current affairs, etc. It could be travelling abroad, either independently or with your family or indeed with a charity. I know it's rather difficult to do that at the moment, but it will resume. Travel will resume. When, we don't know, but it will. And so travelling is a fantastic way with which to better educate yourself, and can actually indeed help you appreciate and understand what you have here in Britain, especially if you go to parts of the world which are less fortunate than we are here in the West. Okay? And thirdly, it could include just simply sitting at the end of a long day and thinking about the things that have happened to you in that day, the things you have said to your friends, the things that your friends have said to you, and just giving a little bit of time to consider the implications of those interactions. Were they positive? Were they negative? Did you both come away feeling better from having been in one another's company, or did you come away feeling worse? These are all questions you can ask yourself, and they're all related to a form of education and about how we interact with one another. Okay? So there are two main reasons, as I've said, why education is important. It's your gateway to a better future, and it also enables you to be a net contributor to society, which is so very important if society is to continue and flourish and be the best version of itself. Okay? We all have a duty with which to contribute to that, myself included. And I've also mentioned that education, of course, doesn't necessarily have to fit into the things that people always think that it might fit into. It does fit into those, but also others, which we've briefly touched on. So the question is, where are you now? And what is going to be happening in the immediate to long-term future? Well, as things stand, it is half-term, and you will indeed go back to school, most of you, on Monday the 22nd of February, and will be a continuation of what you've experienced so far this academic year, and for some of you, what you would have experienced during the last academic year as well, and that is via a computer. And hopefully, although we shall see, schools will return on Monday the 8th of March face-to-face. So that's where things are. Now, the thing I would put to you, now knowing why a good education is so important, the two fundamental reasons that we've touched upon, is for you to think here, today, about what you can be doing in order to make sure that your return to school, virtually to begin with, on Monday the 22nd of February, but then indeed in person, hopefully on Monday the 8th of March, what you can be doing now to make sure that your return then, on those two dates, is as successful as possible. Okay? And there are multiple things that you could be doing. Multiple things. One of which, of course, is organization. It was Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of the United States of America, that said that for every 1 minute spent organizing, an hour is gained later. Now just think about that for a moment. Yes? If you just spent a couple of hours of the remaining days of this half term making sure that your files and your notes and anything you've recorded from your lessons so far are in good order and are in a orderly state so that you could refer back to them as and when you need them, which you will when it comes to doing your exams, regardless of whereabouts you happen to be in the school system. If you can do that, you will by definition be in a better place. So really, the key to take away from this talk is to really appreciate what education can bring you. Okay? It is also to think about how it's going to help you get to where you would like to be in the future. It's going to enable you to be a net contributor to society. Always think about the fact that it doesn't have to be the things that people think it is. It can be that and more. And it is an ongoing process. We're all learning all the time, myself included, that I can assure you. School technically never stops. School is still in session. And that's good. It means we're always learning, yes? And that brings me on to my final point, and that is learning to learn. Now, it's an expression that's often trotted out there, but if you can learn to learn, and by that I mean have the skills and the tools required to be proactive, to go out there and pick up a book on any subject, or open an article online, or watch some particular video on YouTube or elsewhere, that proactiveness, that ability to organize yourself can transcend into all of your subjects, which indeed will then feed into you getting a better grade. Okay? Because when you leave school, there is not necessarily going to be, and in fact for most people there will not be, someone to chase you. So the sooner you can learn to learn and appreciate the importance of a good education, whether that be being delivered to you by somebody else, or indeed if you are teaching yourself something, being self-taught effectively. There are many examples of that in history, very successful examples. Okay, if you can do all those things just in these last few days of half term and get your mind in the right place with which to seize the opportunities that are available to you, you will do very, very well. I am sure of it. So I wish you all the best. My details have in fact been posted alongside this video, so if anybody would ever like to contact me for a chat or to go through anything I've said in more detail, you're always welcome to contact me. All the best. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone. I hope you're all doing well today and sitting comfortably with a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, though maybe some of you are a bit young for that. Or perhaps even a classic glass of water and are sitting comfortably, because today I am going to be taking you from here, today, this moment, this instant, to there, which is in a couple of weeks on March the 8th, when you should all be returning to school and somewhat to a sense of normality after what's been quite a crazy year for all of you. And in this presentation, not too long, I hasten to add, about 10 minutes or so, we will be looking at some steps that we can take and basically asking sort of, how do I do it? How do I make the most of this this pretty incredible opportunity that I've been offered here, being allowed to stay at home, having work, but also a lot more free time than I'm used to. And how do I, start to get ready for the return to school, which will be, very exciting for a lot of reasons. Seeing friends, getting out of the house, dare I say, getting away from your parents. Sorry, parents. But will also be quite scary in some ways. A lot of people, a lot of personal contact, and a lot of a bit of a culture shift, a bit of a culture shock. Exams, written work, all these things that are classrooms, all these things which we've taken for granted as not being there over the last year, really, are all going to be flooding back. So how can we get ready for them and make sure that we're hitting the ground running after March the 8th and onwards into the future? I should have really given this at the beginning, but I will give it now. So a short introduction. My name is Dominic McClaran, and I am a master's student, which is like an extended university degree, studying intelligence, so spying, and international security at King's College London. I also am an experienced personal tutor working at the West London Fulham Study. And in that role, I specialise in 11 plus preparation. So most of you will have had that, but luckily, fortunately, behind you, but may be able to remember how sort of tricky and not necessarily comfortable that experience was. But also English, Latin, and Geography GCSE, and I also specialise in history preparation up to A level and even on to university. But most importantly of all, I am an apprentice at the Worshipful Company of Security Professionals, where all your parents / aunts, uncles, guardians, grandparents, relations, friends are liverymen and members. So I'm a sort of a liveryman in waiting, as it were. And I'm basically going to be sharing some tricks of the trade that I've learned over my time as both a student and a tutor, and hopefully sharing them with you, and hoping to put, maybe a couple of those nagging doubts that you've had to rest. So, how do we do it? How do I do it? So, first of all, we're going to look at the next few weeks ahead, and basically map out a little timeline of what you've got left to wait forward for, and what you can be expecting before going back to school. Then I'm going to introduce you to my old friend, dead friend, and not really my friend, Abraham Maslow, who was a sort of 20th century thinker who was concerned with issues like energy, personal energy, and motivation. A problem I think a lot of us can relate to in relation to schoolwork and deadlines and essays and tests and all that boring stuff. And finally, we're going to be looking at using some of the stuff that Maslow can teach us. We're going to be sort of constructing 5 stepping stones to success. Basically looking at how we can take the right steps forward, leading up to the return to school. But, more generally, just looking to the future of your guys' education generally, and just to see how can you make the most of the time you have at the moment, and more importantly, how can you sort of continue to do well and enjoy what you're studying as you return to school. So, next few weeks ahead. I'm sorry guys, it's official, lockdown and therefore home education is ending. Now I know that some of you might be thinking, oh gosh, yeah, sure it is, we were told this, we've been told that, but everything keeps on changing. We've had to go home, we've had to come back to school, we've had to go back home again. Now, I can safely say that this time I think it is a definite. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about how well the vaccine is doing at the moment, and this has meant that you guys can safely return to school, and this will be for the long run. So while a lot's changed over the last year for you guys, this will be a pretty permanent return to normality and to sort of everyday life, really. Which means that from today, here, now, this moment, you have about 2 weeks left of learning it from home before you return to school. And that might seem like a long time, but I can safely say that 2 weeks can go very quickly. And I think it might just be worth considering and thinking about anything that you sort of, you might have wanted to do while you have this time, because, I know that it seems like it's gone on forever and that this will go on forever, but, eventually in 2, 3, 4, 5 years time, you guys will be leaving school. And I can tell you safely that I had nothing like this when I was at school. And while there's been a lot of problems caused by the coronavirus pandemic, and it's caused a lot of upset for lots of people, it's also given you guys a pretty amazing opportunity to spend a lot of time, at home and have a bit more free time than you might have done. And I think, it's important just to say, make the most of this time because it will go, and learning some good healthy habits regarding learning and also yourself, because the two are very much linked. If you're feeling bad, then it's hard to concentrate on work, and if you're feeling good and feeling happy and contented, then education becomes a lot more fun, I found. Boring, I know. So, I think we just need to see how we can sort of make these two factors link up, really. So 2 weeks to go, 2 weeks till the deadline. Let me introduce Abraham Maslow. Now, I know he might look he might look like a distant relative of Mario and Luigi. The moustache is problematic. I think we can all agree that fashion might have moved on a little bit since then. But this was a really important guy with a lot of great ideas. And he was what we would call a philosopher. The older ones among you will know who that is, but for those of you who you might not have quite got onto those words in those words in your vocabulary test just yet, a philosopher is someone who's concerned about ideas and the kind of ideas that you can't really see or touch. So almost like a scientist of your feelings and of your thoughts. And Abraham Maslow was concerned with a problem which I think all of us here today can resonate with and can relate to, which is a problem of motivation when it comes to learning. And as he said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. A lovely quote, and one which basically means, if you view life through one viewpoint, so for you guys at the moment, it might be, oh, I need to relax. I want to relax. I want to play a game or watch a movie or read. Some of you, maybe people who work a bit more hard, might be saying, no, I need to do well at school. I need to, ace these exams. But now both sides, are valid, are helpful in some ways, but they also have downsides. If you focus on relaxation too much, then you might not develop hobbies or develop skills that will make you feel better, and you might start feeling a bit sad about yourself and that you're not doing as much as you think you could be doing, that you might be sort of wasting your life a bit away. I think I'm sure that your parents have often said, stop playing video games, stop doing this, stop doing that, it's a waste of time. Now, that's not completely true. Doing some of that is useful and is helpful and is fun, and it's enjoyable. But doing it all the time can be a little excessive. Now, on the other hand, if you're spending all your time working and stressing out over exams and tests and pieces of homework, and you're not seizing the time to relax and enjoy yourself, then you will probably find that those pieces of work are more difficult than if you were going into them relaxed and calm in the first place. So basically, Abraham Maslow can tell us that we need to take a few things into account, in particular 5 things, when we're approaching learning. And I think understanding these 5 factors will really help you all get back to school in the good way. So, taking the right steps forward. So our friend Christopher Maslow identified 5 factors for success, really, and for feeling good about yourself and for enjoying education. And these were personal needs, personal space, personal relationships, self-esteem, so how we feel about ourselves, and then our goals, what we want to do, what we want to achieve, what we want to see. So, broadly speaking, ticking off one will then lead on to the other, right? And I want to put forward to you that you should use the next 2 weeks really to try and work through each of these goals and try and, tick them off or work on them. And I think that once you've managed to get to the final stage, the golden stage, the lovely stage, goals, then you'll be feeling a lot more confident and a lot more prepared for the return to school. And I think you'll probably get a lot more out of it than you did before you went on lockdown, and can really take this experience as a learning experience and a growing experience personally for you guys, because you guys are still all growing. So what do these mean? Well, personal needs. This is quite a basic one. This is basically, are you drinking enough water? Are you eating enough food? Are you eating enough, dare I say, vegetables and fruit? And are you getting enough sleep? So I put forward to you that getting a decent sleeping pattern, a regular sleeping pattern, and not eating loads of sugary drinks, loads of things that will keep you up at night, loads of things that won't really give you the right vitamins and nutrients, eating a bit more healthily and a bit more regularly. And if everyone's already doing this, that's amazing. We can move on to the next one. But for those of you who maybe could work on this a little bit more, treating things like, sleep, food, and drink as aims to be attained rather than just sort of constants in your life that don't really need any checking, will make you feel so much better and so much more motivated and have so much more energy when it comes to working. And this naturally moves on to the second sort of aspect, the second stage, the second step, which is space. Your personal space is so important. I'm sure that all of you have found that since working at home, you've been able to do more work and concentrate for longer and concentrate better when you have a regular personal space to work in, whether it be your bedroom, whether it be at the kitchen desk, whether it be, if it isn't snowing, in the garden. Now, obviously, when you'll be going back to school, you will have set spaces, you'll have classrooms or study rooms, but you'll still need to be doing homework, you'll still need to be doing essays, you'll still need to be revising for tests. So it is your job, firstly, to ensure that as you go back to school, you have a set space at home for all of this to do. If you've cleared a space at the kitchen table, make sure it's nice and ordered. If you have a desk in your room, make sure that you can have access to all your notes, and if you like a radio nearby, so you can listen to music, whatever. But broadly speaking, a clear, organized space will help you immensely when it comes to working. And these are skills that you can take into the classroom, whether it be ordering your pencil case, ordering files on your laptop. All of these things are essential and will majorly de-stress you when it comes to looking for notes, looking for revision tips, looking for past papers, etc., etc. Relationships. Now, I do not mean romantic relationships, I mean your social relationships, your personal relationships with your friends and your family. I'm sure that being stuck at home has, on the one hand, revealed how much you guys enjoy spending time with your friends, but also actually how much time you might not have spent with your family, like your grandparents, for instance, who, I know I haven't been able to see my grandparents for the better part of a year. So I've had to FaceTime them and call them. I'm sure the same has been true for you. Now, once you get back to school, you will not have as much time to do these kinds of things. So I would really emphasize making the most of the time you have at home now to give, your friends or your families a call, see how they're doing, and make sure those relationships are strong, because ultimately you will be supporting each other and they will be supporting you as you go ahead and get back into school. The fourth stage, self-esteem. Now, if you ticked off stages 1, 2, and 3, you'll find that stage 4 is a doddle to do. Self-esteem basically means how you feel about yourself. Do you feel good? Do you feel bad? So, for instance, if you haven't revised for that geography test on Friday, there is no geography test. It's just imaginary. Just so none of you get worried. If you haven't revised for that specific test, then you'll be feeling anxious. You might feel a bit bad about yourself because you might feel guilty that you've not worked, or you might feel worried about what will be in the test. But if you have put a bit of work in and you've worked hard, and you know that actually you might do okay in that test or in that piece of homework, then you'll feel a bit better, you'll feel happier. So broadly speaking, and doing well will be helped a lot by making sure that your basic needs, sleep, food and drink, are met, your personal space to work in is established and ordered, your relationships are good, so you don't have any sort of stress going on in the background, other things to think about. You can just focus on your work and on yourself and on your skills. And this will lead to your self-esteem. And once all of these are sorted, you'll be able to do extra things to help you with your self-esteem. Hobbies, whether it's sport or music or drama or art or reading or even just a bit of gaming, By taking off each of these steps, you will have more time and more energy to do these things, and you will feel better for it. And of course, this is all leading up to the golden stage of goals. If you can tick off the first 4 steps on this whole pyramid to success, then your goals will seem a lot more achievable. And I think this is really something you should take into school. You will have all discovered things about yourselves over the last year, about what you like, about what you enjoy, about what you want to study or what you want to do, or where you want to go, where you want to travel. Do not let these things fall to the side because you've gone back to school. You're in a different working environment, but you're still these same people and same students you've developed over the last year. Take the enthusiasm you've gained while being at home and apply it to the working environment. And I promise you, everything will seem a lot better and a lot more manageable afterwards. So, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. It's Dominic McClaran, dominic.mclaran@gmail.com. And to sum up, um, 2 weeks away, that's when we go back to school. Let's think about Abraham Maslow and sort of the 5 key steps that he identified. And let's try and work on them over the next 2 weeks so that we really go back to school, hitting the ground running. So all that remains for me to say is good luck, and most importantly, have fun, because it might not seem like it all the time, but learning is fun, and it's very enjoyable, and it's very important. Have a good day.